Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We've got a new video and a new book to talk about, so let's get into it. So this video is going to be about Rocket Men by Robert Kurson. This is a nonfiction about the events of and leading up to the Apollo 8 space mission. And for those who don't know, this is the mission where men first went to the moon. Not when they landed, that was Apollo 11, but Apollo 8 is when they left Earth, orbited around the moon, and then came back home. Some background on me is I'm very fascinated by space and space-related things, and so I knew quite a bit about space, but the story of Apollo 8 kind of eluded me. I knew it was to go to the moon and come back without landing, but I didn't know that much behind it. And so this book was really fascinating in, filling in the gaps in my knowledge and really detailing what it was like for the people involved. The book starts off by detailing previous events within the space program with Mercury and Gemini programs, which were the first ones to from America to put people in space, and then Apollo was, of course, to put people on the moon. Early on, the book talks about Apollo 1 and what went wrong there, what happened with that mission is during a test where they weren't even going to launch, the crew was aboard the rocket and inside the capsule where an electrical fire broke out and killed all of them. And it wasn't a great time, and a lot of people were thinking that NASA was going to lose all its funding and that there was no hope of reaching the goal set by Kennedy to reach the moon by the end of the decade. And on that note, they do spend a good amount of time talking about how just purely ambitious that goal and how truly ambitious that milestone really was. He had made that just after we had put a person into space, not even orbiting, and to say within a few years that we would land on the moon was extremely optimistic. So moving into the story specifically about Apollo 8 is that it wasn't supposed to be the mission that it was. Apollo 8 was originally going to test out the lunar module, which would be the spacecraft that would actually land on the lunar surface. However, due to complications with getting that ready, it wouldn't be ready for Apollo 8's time slot. So a bunch of people came together to try and figure out what could be done, and they came up with a absurd idea that they could skip this part of the program for now and go straight to the moon before a lander is ready. This idea was so absurd that they decided not to even tell their bosses for a while. They decided to do a bunch of analysis to see if it could be done before even bringing it up, so that way it wouldn't get shot down before they got started. After doing the analysis, they found out that the window to launch it would be in late December of 1968, and it would take place over Christmas. When they presented the plan to the head of NASA, he was quite upset that they hid it from him, as well as the target launch date, as it would mean astronauts would be at the moon on Christmas. And he was extremely worried that if something were to go wrong, it would ruin both the moon and Christmas for everyone, as it would just be a reminder every Christmas of the anniversary of this disaster, and every time they look up at the moon, they're reminded of the people who died there. However, he didn't say no. So tentative plans kept advancing as they underwent more and more preparations to get this plan into motion. The book goes on to detail how the plan came together up until the launch window, and then actually covering the mission as they journeyed to the moon, detailing all the key milestones and all the incidents that were to come up. I do really want to just speak for a moment on how absurd one element is. Because the American people were paying for this program through their taxes, it was very important that they bring along TV cameras so they're able to broadcast live to the public. They broadcast many times during the mission on the way to and around the moon. However, the final broadcast, which was while they were in lunar orbit, I think is just kind of interesting. The broadcast occurred on Christmas Eve, just hours before they were set to leave the moon. The crew decided that they needed to say something extremely memorable to just captivate the American people and the people all over the world. They debated for a long time over what should be said and what type of message they want to deliver. Ideas were thrown about, such as singing a Christmas song or reading a Christmas story, but they decided against that because they didn't want this to be a Christian event for only people who celebrate Christmas. They wanted it to be a worldwide thing, which really surprised me because you wouldn't have thought that they would actually think of that. They weighed other options such as poetry or other sayings, but nothing quite seemed right. The book then calls out how the wife of someone they were getting advice from suggested something. The book was intentionally vague about what the wife's suggestion was, but the crew loved the idea and just went for it because they knew that was what they wanted to do. And that was all the book said for before the mission. During the mission, the book recounts what happened during this broadcast. They did the normal broadcast, and then at the end, they wanted to deliver this special message. This message that they wanted to be for the whole world. And they decided a fucking Bible verse. They didn't want it to be a Christmas song because they didn't want it to be religious, and then they read the fucking Bible? I'll give them that the verse was also in the Torah, so a little more inclusion, but still, like, why the fuck did they think that was a good idea? I just cannot comprehend, like, and then also, like, the book talks about how people were just in, like, tears over this reading, and I don't get it. I even looked up a recording of this broadcast to listen to it, and yeah, it's just them reading the Bible, and then all the comments are like, yeah, when I watched this as a kid, I cried. Yeah, that was just weird. But that's besides the book, kind of. Anyway, the rest of the book detailed their return to Earth and then also events that came after it. And then the rest of the book detailed events that happened after they had landed at Earth and all the societal changes and also how they carried on in their life. There was also a author's note or I don't remember how they called it, but detailing how the author of this book got inspired to write the story, and then also detailing how he was able to interview all the people of the mission. So overall, I found this book very interesting and, captivating, and I really enjoyed it. Apart from the Bible thing, which I still really don't get. Anyway, I give this book 5 stars out of 5. It was a wonderful book. The next book I'm reading is going to be another non-fiction book, so get excited for that one. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.